Okay, gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Be'ezrat Hashem, today we are going to be learning Mishnah Vav of the first chapter, Masechet Bava Metzia, and it's a jam-packed Mishnah. So let's get started. Be'ezrat Hashem. Says the Mishnah, Matzah Shitrei Chov. Over here in today's Mishnah, we're going to be talking about a person who found a lost document. The halacha is like this. By the way, of course, before we begin, we are sponsored today and throughout the entire Masechet Bava Metzia by the Seragat for our family, who sponsored the whole Masechet for the Refuah Shlema of Miriam Bat Muluk. May she have a complete and speedy recovery. B'toch Shar Cholei Yisrael. Amen. So says the Mishnah, we're talking about somebody who found a lost shtar, a lost document. Now, what happened over here is like this. Whenever somebody borrows money from someone else, the halacha says that the borrower has to write a document that says how much money he's borrowing, and he has to bring two witnesses that will sign the document, and that will show that he is now giving over his clear understanding that he is obligated to pay this amount of money. What happens then is that he gives this document to the lender, and the lender now has proof that this person owes him the money, and he can go to Beit Din and he can say, listen, the guy owes me the money and he has to pay. That's why, I still have this document. Because if, let's say, the person pays back the money, so then the lender has to hand back the document and say that here it is. And what the borrower will do is he'll tear up the document. There's no more proof, and that's the end of the whole story. So that's the standard way that these things work. The guy writes the document. He signs witnesses to it. I owe $500,000, let's say. I give it to the lender, and then the lender keeps it. And whenever he wants to collect the money, he comes to me and he says, listen, here's the proof. You borrowed the money from me, and he has to pay me back. Once he pays the money back, then the lender gives the document back to the borrower, tears it up, and that's it. Okay, that's the end of the story. Now, this case is a very interesting case. What happened is like this. What happened over here is like this. This person goes ahead and he signs up to, the person finds a lost document on the floor. He's in the street and he finds a document that says Shimon borrows $500,000 from Reuven. That's what it says. So Shimon borrows $500,000 from Reuven, and he finds a lost document like that. Now there's an issue. The question is, what do we do with this document? So now, if somebody says, let's say he goes to Shimon and he says, Shimon, listen, you know that document you wrote in Reuven that says you owe $500,000? I found it on the street. So if Shimon says, listen, don't give it back to Reuven. I paid this loan already. I paid the money. So then definitely you cannot give the document back to Reuven, because Reuven is going to take it and collect it again. He already collected all his money. He gave it back to Shimon. Shimon, the shlamazel, the guy with no mazal, he lost the document. You find it, and now you're going to give it back to Reuven. Reuven is going to go and claim that he didn't get the money, and he's going to collect the $500,000 once again. So that's no good. So if the guy says I paid it, definitely you're not allowed to give back the document to the lender. But in this case, what we're going to talk about now is where they both agreed, both the borrower and the lender agree that the money was not paid. They both agree that Reuven is still owed the $500,000. So now the question is, should you give back the document to Reuven, yes or no? So the simple idea would be, of course. What do you mean? Everybody is saying that Reuven is still owed the money, so give back the paper to Reuven. So over here, there's a very interesting concern. This is what Chazal called knunya. Knunya is like this, very tricky. Look at what might happen. It's possible. Let me take a step back. Usually, lenders are very careful with this kind of a document. This is the document that proves that they are owed the money. When somebody is owed $500,000, he makes sure that that piece of paper is clear, that it's hidden away somewhere safe. Nobody has access to it. He watches over it. Okay? Because that's basically the only thing that can get him back his money. When you find a document like that in the middle of the street, the assumption is, the Mefarshim explained, that the chances are that what happened is that the guy who took this document back, really the borrower paid back the money. And that's why the borrower had possession of the document, because he paid back the $500,000. He paid it back. That's the assumption now. And it must be that he had it in his pocket and it fell out. He lost it in the street. So therefore, it explains the Mishnah, there's a concern over here. The fact that you find it in the street could potentially lead to something very damaging. And that's the following. It's possible they will find out that you gave the document back to the lender, okay? And then what will happen is they'll come up with a scheme, both the borrower and the lender. And they'll say, listen, here's what we're going to do. The halakha says that if I owe you money and I don't have money to pay back the loan, so again, I borrowed $500,000 from you and I don't have money to pay you back. So then the halakha says that you can collect, if it was on a document and it was documented and we agreed that you can collect from my properties. So if let's say that I sold a house and I got money from the sale, right? And now I don't have money to pay you back. You have a lien on that house. You have the ability to collect the house from the person that bought it from me. Because what right do I have to sell the house to somebody and take money for myself while I owe you $500,000? So in such a case, we give the lender the right to go ahead and to take the property that was sold to a third party as collection for the debt that was originally owed to him. So now, here's what's going to happen. Potentially, it could happen. They're going to find out that you found this lost document. And what they're going to do is they're going to say, yeah, I didn't pay the money back yet. And the lender will say, he never paid me back yet. You go and you give back the document to the lender. And now the lender is going to go and collect the house that the borrower just sold to some other guy. They're going to collect it from that other guy. And then they're going to split the house. They're going to split the profits of the house together. So you see, it's a very interesting scheme that they're coming up with. So therefore, says the Mishnah, even though they both agree that the money was not paid yet, you're not supposed to give back the document because of this fear. Now, there's going to be an argument about whether or not the document needs to say in it that if I don't pay you back, you can collect from my properties. Or even if it doesn't say that you can collect from the properties, you can still collect from the properties nevertheless. All right, that was a lot of information right now. How are we doing, guys? Do you have it clear, or do we need to repeat anything? We're good? Okay, excellent. Fine. So now, let's read the Mishnah inside, and we'll say it right now. It says the Mishnah, Matzashi Trechov, a person finds a document that says that so-and-so owes money to so-and-so. So the Mishnah starts off like this. The first opinion of Rabbi Meir holds that im yesh behem achrayut nechasim, if the document details that in the event that the borrower defaults on the loan, that the person, that the lender can collect from properties, so then says the Mishnah, lo yachzir, you're not allowed to give back the document, even though they both agree. Even though they both agree, one second. Even though they both agree that the money is still owed. Why? Because then what's going to happen is that the lender is going to go and collect money. They're going to collect the assets that the borrower sold to a third party for payment for the loan, while it's very possible that the borrower already paid back the loan, but is now pretending that he did not, in order that the lender should be able to collect from the properties that the borrower sold to other people. And then they're going to split the money of those properties in half. So therefore, the halakha says that if it says on the document that you're allowed to collect from my properties, if I don't pay you back, then don't give back the document to the lender. On the other hand, if it doesn't have on the document that you can collect from my properties, then yachazir, then you are allowed to give it back. And because then in that case, Beddin does not have the right to collect the assets that the lender sold to other people on behalf of the the Beddin does not have the right to collect the assets that the borrower sold to other people on behalf of the lender. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Now, on the other hand, the rabbis argue, and they say, Chachamim omrim ben kach u ben kach lo yachzir. This way or that way, meaning whether it says on the document that you can collect from assets, whether it doesn't say on the document you can collect from assets, lo yachzir, do not give it back. Why? Because of the fact that the document will allow the Beit Din to collect from the properties regardless of whether it says it or not. There's no need to mention it, because by the mere fact that it's written on a paper, that is enough of a reason for the Beit Din to allow the collection from the assets that the borrower sold. So therefore, no matter which way, whether it says it or not, doesn't make a difference. The Beit Din will then have the authority to collect from those assets, and therefore there's a chance that this scheme will actually be something that comes to life, and that we don't want. So therefore, says the Mishnah, because then Beit Din will go ahead and collect from the assets that the borrower sold to other people on behalf of the lender, and it's very likely that the borrower already paid back the money, and they're just doing it as a scheme to steal from the people that bought assets from the borrower. Okay, guys, I hope that was clear today. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask. But that's today's Mishnah, gentlemen.
Rabbi, question. If the guy, he find a document, why he has to go to the borrower first, ask him, oh, did you pay the money or not? Why he doesn't go to the lender first? Or did you collect the money or not?
The thing is like this: if either one of them, if the borrower says that he paid back the money already, then you're not allowed to give back this document to the lender, because it's very possible that he would be collecting again, and that's a big problem. So therefore, we have to ask the borrower. If the lender were to say that he didn't, it could be that he's lying. So it could be that the borrower is lying too, but we don't take the chance. That's the simple assumption. It's a good question. It's a good question.
But there is more chance that a borrower lie than the lender. because the borrower maybe he doesn't have the money to return. Lender, maybe he did it in a good faith to give the money to the borrower, or maybe he lent him the money to collect some money. Either case, he had the money. The other guy didn't have the money.
Right.
So there is a possibility that he lies most likely. The borrower most likely could lie than the lender.
It's a very good question that you're asking. It's a very good question. I'll read it to you inside. Let me take out one of my my books over here, and we'll see if they address it. 1 second, guys. Hold on. Here. I'll read to you a note from there's a beautiful new set of art scroll we have over here. I'm going to read it to you from the note on the bottom. If the borrower claims that he did pay the loan, it is obvious that the document cannot be returned to the lender, since he could then use it to collect again. Similarly, it cannot be returned to the borrower, since he might still owe the money. So in other words, you do not have the right to give it to either of them. You understand? The Mishnah must therefore be discussing a case where the borrower admits he has not yet paid off the loan. So this whole Mishnah is talking about where the borrower is saying, I did not pay the loan. That's when we're concerned that they might have a scheme. But when the borrower is saying, I paid the loan, you have no right to give it to the lender. And if the lender is saying, no, he didn't pay the loan, so then, he has to find some other form of proof, but you cannot just give it to him. You understand? That seems to be you would have to bring other witnesses, you would have to do something else, but not this document. This document is in a dispute. You cannot give it to either of them. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a very good point. It's a very good point you're asking. But that seems to be the simple understanding. Okay, guys. Chazakim u'bruchim. It's a tough Mishnah today, but you guys did great. Chazakim u'bruchim. Chodesh tov, guys. Chodesh tov.